Welcome to Dune Chapter by Chapter. I'm Dominic. Now, in the last chapter that I discussed, it was how the Harkonnens were sowing the seeds of doubt in amongst the Atreides, and how Thufir was very concerned that the traitor might actually be Lady Jessica. And that's what the Harkonnens want the Atreides to think, because then it hides the true traitor, who we all know is Dr. Yue. So Duke Leto doubted that right from the beginning. He doesn't believe it's Lady Jessica. He believes it's somebody else. And his mind just cannot accept it, even if it were true. He just could not accept it. And he is convinced that it's just a Harkonnen trick, which in reality it is. Now, this again carries over a little bit into this chapter as he discusses it with Paul. And he tells Paul that we have to let your mother keep on believing, and that she is the one that's suspected of being a traitor, and that everyone suspects that, and even the Duke himself, just so that everything seems more genuine. And she can't know the truth, that he actually thinks it's someone else. And this is part of his plan to flush out the real traitor. What's interesting about this chapter is he's kind of having like this chapter is short. It's not a very long chapter. He's having like an intimate father-son moment with Paul in this one, and he's telling Paul things that he can't tell anyone else. And he reminds Paul of that. He tells him, I have to be able to tell you these things. If I can't tell you these things, my son, who can I tell? But in this chapter, we also get the impression that Duke Leto, and we've gotten this impression for the last few chapters, that there's like this strange air of dread over House Atreides, and doubt. Like it's in all the meetings with the men. It was in the last chapter, and now it's in this chapter as well. He talks about, well, if something were to happen to me, please tell your mother the truth. And Paul's a little bit taken by that, because he can remember what the Reverend Mother said to him in chapter 1. For the father, nothing. So he says to his dad, reassures him, well, nothing's going to happen to you. But he tells him, no, I know, but just tell your mother if something happens. So we almost kind of get the impression in this chapter that Duke Leto is like almost defeated in his own mind. Like he almost, on some level, he knows something bad's going to happen to him, and that maybe he's having doubts. Maybe they shouldn't have taken on Arrakis. Maybe they should just have went renegade and taken off, went rogue, became a rogue house, and they probably would have been better off. They probably would have been safer than having come to Arrakis and taken over the fiefdom on the Emperor's order. Because I think deep down inside, he realizes that this is a trap. They know it's a trap, and now they have to survive a trap that they knowingly walked into. And so you kind of have that, there's that kind of that feeling that he's already given up somehow. He's already defeated. And he doesn't really know what to go and what to do, and like the place is weighing down on him and things like that. And it's taken its toll. The Harkonnen plan is working. It's taking its toll. Even though they are kind of onto the plan, it's still working. It's still causing a lot of distrust, and will continue to do so. And by the time they actually get around to finding who the traitor is, it's going to be too late, as we find out. Now, there's not a huge amount of to talk about in this chapter, but I thought there was something interesting in it that was mentioned towards the end. And that's when Duke Leto is kind of like, he has this, not only does he have this doubt in his own mind, but he kind of talks about the harsh conditions of Arrakis, and how it might, it could force them to act morally and just, because there's a lot of things that in the normal art of Canley won't work on Arrakis. And one of the byproducts of being on Arrakis is everything is filled with spice. It's in the air. It's in everything. So your body gets concentrated with spice just by being on Arrakis, eating the food and everything else. So the normal rules of Canley don't work when it comes to poisons and stuff like that, because a lot of the poisons, basic poisons that are in the Assassin's Handbook, the act of just having so much spice in your system actually makes you immune to these poisons. Not only that, it's hard to use poisons on Arrakis because everything is inspected and everything is such under strict control because of the water situation. So all the food manufacturing is very scrutinized, inspected, because not a drop of moisture can be wasted. We kind of see this again when he looks out at the flowers outside. They had dew collectors, in the last chapter, collecting the dew off of the flowers. So even the dew, morning dew on flowers, even that's collected. Nothing's wasted on the planet of Arrakis. So that's kind of a cool idea. That's kind of a cool thing. But as he's talking about that, he kind of there's another feeling going on there that this could change House Atreides being on Arrakis. It could corrupt them. It could do something to them. And he looks out at the house's flag, the banner of House Atreides, and he says, who knows what that flag what evils that flag could come to symbolize in the future. Even though it symbolizes something good and just now, the banner of House Atreides, it could mean something very different in the future. Because he also goes on to talk about how he's putting on this front of being such a good, just person, and he even has a propaganda corps that spreads that word throughout all the garrison towns. And I thought that was kind of interesting, talking about symbols and symbolism and flags and all that kind of thing, and how those things have so much power. Like how certain flags can make you react when you see them. Things like that, certain flags you see them and it's a symbol of evil. Another flag is a symbol of freedom. And one flag you can be proud of, another flag can make you ashamed, and things like that. And it's just the interesting power that symbols have over people. And if you think about it, a flag or a symbol, the design on it or whatever it is, it's nothing. It's just a flag. It's just a design at the most basic level. And whatever meaning it has is the meaning that people collectively give to it, or the meaning that you come to it and give it yourself. That's the power of symbols. People give symbols power. Symbols on their own have no power. Whatever symbol it has, whatever power a symbol has, it's because people collectively give it that power. And if a symbol like a flag or a crest or something like that stirs some kind of an emotion in you, like happiness or sadness or fear or anything like that, it's because that's what you're bringing to the table. It's that's what you've attached to that symbol, and then the meaning of these things can change over time. To give like a personal example of something that has changed for me over time, a symbol. This is a very straightforward one. It's a Confederate flag. When I was a kid growing up, when I saw the Confederate flag, the only thing I ever thought of was the Dukes of Hazzard. That's it. That's all it meant to me. This was what the Dukes of Hazzard, the Hazzard boys, had on the top of their car, the General Lee. That's all the meaning it had for me. It never had no more meaning than that but now, when I look at it, I think a million things. It has a totally different meaning to me now that I know more about the flag and its background and all that. And there's a lot of people that flag has a lot of different meaning for it. Some people look at that flag and they see oppression and racism, and then some other people look at it and it's a flag of rebellion and freedom and stuff like that. Or probably there's still people today that look at it and, well, that's the Dukes of Hazzard flag. That's what it means to them, right? So that's the power of symbols. They can change over time. And that's what I found very interesting in this chapter. It was only a small bit, but it was interesting nonetheless. So there's not really much more to talk about in this chapter. This was only like a couple pages. It was a very, very short chapter. But the next chapter was quite long, and there's lots to talk about in the next chapter. So I'm going to wrap this one up here. So that's everything I got to say in this video. Let me know what you think in the comments section, and I will see you at the next one.